What is up, everybody? First from the hill in 2018. Happy New Year. Swag's here with the Prof. Happy New Year, Prof.
Hey, Happy New Year, Jackie boy. Hey, everybody. How's it going today?
So, it is bitter cold. I think it's bitter cold across the country, really bitter cold here up in the Northeast. It's single digits out here.
It's nasty, man.
Nasty. Everybody's getting snowed on. There was snow in Jacksonville, bro. I don't think that's ever happened ever.
I bought my dog a pair of boots yesterday.
The T-Bird? How do you like them boots?
He needed them. He would not walk through the snow for more than like 2 minutes at a time. He wouldn't go.
Like high-stepping around in the snow.
He was high-stepping and he would just stop. I'd have to carry him inside. It was crazy.
So you see my little dog. He loves the snow, but he's about 12 pounds.
Yeah.
And he'll stay out there for about 5 minutes, and then he's freezing. And he won't wear a sweater. I try to put a nice sweater jacket on him. Nah, hates it.
I do my best to just let him go out the backyard instead of taking him for a walk, but he needs to walk. So that's what we do. It's bad. But we're getting through it. Next week we should come out of it, I hope.
Yeah.
At least just get back up to.
I'll take double digits.
Yeah, give me like freezing.
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
This teens and double digit stuff just doesn't cut it up here in the Northeast. So, a couple things I wanted to start with before we get into the rundown for today's show. First, I apologize for last week's From the Hill episode. So, Prof and I did it, and everything turned out great. We ran the mic test.
Are you apologizing for my my takes or
no,
for your
well,
audio?
I'm always apologizing for your takes, buddy.
That was pretty bad.
I'm always apologizing for your takes, but it was Nikki and I tested the mics and everything was good, and then for whatever reason my mic cut out. So you can hear Prof is a lot louder than me in that video. It's still fine, right? There's a lot of good takes in there, but it just sometimes if I move closer to him, it sounds better.
Yeah.
But apologize for that one. We'll make sure that doesn't happen ever again.
That was an impromptu show. We were at least I was a little more excited than
well,
than
honestly,
I was prepared.
the content is fine. It was just the audio was lesser quality than we like to put out.
Fun nonetheless.
And it's still good. So check that one out. So here we are on January 6th, and this is going to be almost an entirely football show because a lot of things to cover for both college and NFL. So I'm going to give you that rundown in a minute. But first, the housekeeping, as always, remember, when you watch From the Hill, check the comments section because we're going to lay out all the segments in the bottom of the comment section. I know not everybody likes to listen to the whole video, so go pick what you want to get out. If you want to get the picks, obviously we have games today going on that we're going to make picks for. Both Prof and I are coming off really good weeks on the picks. I'm still hot. So we're going to get those out for you.
I was pretty hot in NFL last week for once.
Yeah, Prof had a great week. So if you guys obviously want to get to the picks. Also, a little announcement. So Prof and I talking about getting audio out, and I've had a lot of folks talk about how sometimes watching these on YouTube is tough. So what we're really going to start doing, and we did an audio file when we did the last in-studio show, is we're going to make sure we get ourselves a platform to get the audio files out as well. We'll be working through that this week, and we'll make that announcement where you guys can get the audio files as well. So if you don't want to look at my ugly face, look, Nick's always looking good on camera, so that's fine. But if you don't want to see my ugly face, you can just listen to the audio. So once we get that out, we'll make that announcement.
Trying to take the next step in FTH.
Yeah, FTH content. You can just play it in your pocket while you're walking around walking your dog.
Yeah.
You know, Pooch Patrol.
Yep. Coming up.
All right, so let's get it popping with college football, Bucci. So let's start with the college football playoff. We've talked a lot about the college football playoff system on FTH, and we're going to even talk even more about it today. But let's start with the games that we had on New Year's Day. So let's start with the Dogs and the Sooners.
Good one, man.
Yeah, great game. Double OT. So, Bucci, tell me what you think about the Dogs, Oklahoma. 54-48. Dogs beat the Sooners.
All right, so I played the flight card a little bit last week. Let's all be honest. I may do that from time to time, but I did give you Georgia. My heart told me Oklahoma. My play was right. My process was right. My heart was wrong.
He's right. So he ended up officially taking Oklahoma with the points.
And the funny thing is, during the game, I was texting all the guys, and I said, told you my heart was right, because Oklahoma came roaring out of the gate. Couldn't stop them. They had no answer for that offense. Baker Mayfield had the adrenaline going.
Unstoppable.
It was pretty impressive at the beginning, and I thought it was a runaway 30-point lead, and you come to find out it's a four-quarter game.
Yeah, Georgia made good adjustments at halftime, right? Because they came out and slowed that offense down. Offense looked unstoppable.
I was impressed by the adjustments that they did make because they knew they had to come out firing, and there were certain momentum swings in that game that in the second half in particular that just completely swung everything their way. And then when you come into overtime, I thought it might go on forever. And that stop by the Georgia defense was big time. Didn't cover. They scored the touchdown. Whatever. I flaked out on it. Okay, I'll give you that. But
overall, extremely entertaining game. Right, it was a great game.
Yeah,
extremely entertaining to watch. I think even more points than we could have anticipated. Right, it looked like a Big 12 game. Georgia looked like a Big 12 team.
Yeah,
they were scoring at will too.
I was entertained. It was one I was locked into.
There's an interesting thing that happened after the game that I wanted to touch on real quick because we're going to touch on probably maybe not this show, but coming up here in a couple of shows, we're going to touch on the draft prospects of these guys, and obviously Baker Mayfield's going into the draft.
Yeah.
The one thing that happened after the game, which I thought was interesting, when they're all walking around the field, Baker Mayfield's got that bravado going on, and he's got a little bit of Johnny Manziel in him, right? He's walking around the field, and number 12 on Georgia's defense is yelling to him, "Humble yourself, humble yourself." Did you see that?
No, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, so after the game, they're all in the field running around. The players exchange pleasantries, and he's yelling on camera, almost in front of a microphone,
right.
"Humble yourself, humble yourself."
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting, given the fact that my man just dropped 48 points on you in a bowl game, in a playoff game. I don't know about humble yourself. Baker tore it up. It wasn't his fault they lost that game.
No, I don't think it was his fault, but let's be honest, it wasn't a defensive battle by any means. I kind of, I agree with it in some respect because you look at, if this was a first thing for Mayfield when it was either grabbing his crotch on the sideline against Kansas or it was planting the flag in Ohio State.
That didn't plant because it's a turf field.
Right. But entertainment value, the kid's got it. He's got the WWE factor. What's interesting about him is he does kind of remind me of Manziel in that it's more about him, and I don't want to say it's not about the team because I think he does have that in mind, but does that type of bravado, is that something that is, I guess, shows itself to the NFL? Are NFL teams looking for a guy like that? Maybe if Manziel doesn't come out and he doesn't do the same things that he did, maybe they are looking for that. Maybe if Manziel was successful, but there's not many guys that come out with that type of personality. Mayfield is one of them, and Manziel's the other. I don't know. There's probably a couple wide receivers that you could think of that come out with that, but not quarterbacks.
No, you see that more at the receiver position. Now, there's guys in the league who have that type of fire and bravado, but just not on that level, right? The names that come to mind are like Phil Rivers.
Okay.
Tom Brady to a certain extent, yelling at guys. Aaron Rodgers, right, has got a little bit of that in him, but it's a little bit. It's not the full way. So when you look at all the way, Rodgers gives you the belt, right? Like these guys.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's directed at the other team.
No, and that's not the way that Mayfield and even Manziel do it, right? Because they make it a big show about themselves.
Right.
So when we talk about NFL prospects, that's something I want to talk about. Actually, the Manziel comparison, Mayfield's going to live with, and I actually think it's fairly good comparison because stature-wise, right, and that thing physically, the tools they have, they're almost at the same level, and so
decent arm strength.
The comparison there, exactly. That's the comparison there is a good one. So I think we'll let you guys know. I think 1 or 2 weeks we're going to be doing the draft breakdown, and we're going to go through quarterbacks. So the Baker Mayfield one's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think there's a positive spin to the amount of energy and the adrenaline you can bring to the game and how you bring that to your teammates, but where it's directed, how it's channeled, and how you use it is, I think that's the most important thing, and that's something that, I'm not an NFL scout, but if I was, where you bring that energy, how that translates to the field, and the results speak for themselves, I think, in that respect. So
yeah, and when we talk about NFL scouting, right, it's one of 9,000 things they consider.
Sure.
It's insane.
Right.
So no, that's going to be a good show. So
but yeah, great game. It was really entertaining. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, really good game. Let's talk about the other game. Let's talk about the Tide and Clemson. And man, Tide rolls over Clemson 24-6. It was never a game, was it, Nick?
No, and I kind of thought that way. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, and that's why I gave you the under on that one.
Good call.
I have to call out my good calls because they're few and far between. But yeah, it was. To be honest with you, I started watching at the beginning, and as Alabama racked up a couple points, I kind of zoned out a little bit. It's another one of those games. It's like they play these games kind of late anymore.
Oh yeah, so actually that's something
Like,
that
I
we
had to get up off of a vacation.
Prof and I are
to get ready
texting
to
actually that
wake
day,
up at
right?
6:30.
New Year's Day, we're texting, and I'm coming off of a New Year's Eve night, right? You know, Swags gets a little crazy, and I'm waiting till 8:30, and then it's 8:45 for the Bama game to start. I'm going, I'm not staying up until 12:30. I gotta go to work tomorrow. Like, this is not. Why are they starting these games so late?
I don't know. It's all the money grab. It's all
That's true.
the big networks, and that's not going to change, I don't think. But it does set up for a really good final.
It does.
It's
It
an
does.
offensive firepower versus defensive. It's a rock. What do you call it?
The irresistible force meets the immovable object.
Yeah, I think it sets up for a good game. I don't know if it's going to be a high scoring game.
Does it surprise you how ineffective Clemson's offense was against Bama's defense?
No. I think that if you look at their defense, they have how many NFL guys on that defense?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, listen, Bama's stacked up and down with talent. What surprised me, though, to be honest, was I saw, and a lot of guys talk about this, I saw Dabo freaking out at his young quarterback during the game multiple times. And
Yeah.
Dabo has been this, players coach, tight with his guys, and he freaked during that game
Yeah.
because of how ineffective his offense was. And I sort of thought that looked bad for Dabo, only because we've been accustomed to him being so close to his guys. And it was almost like, you had Deshaun Watson there.
It's easy to be close to a guy like that, right?
Exactly. You had Deshaun Watson there, who was such a good player, and he brought so much to the table. And then Kelly, I think, has a lot of similar tools to Deshaun, but he's younger, right? I mean, this is his first year playing, and all of a sudden he's screaming and yelling at him as if it's his fault. Where his front five, their line was getting pushed around by Bama's front four.
Well, I think what you found out just from watching the first half of the NFL season that Deshaun Watson's a special athlete, and you're not gonna. Those aren't just everyday recruits for Clemson. I mean, you are going to get the top recruits at Clemson. You're going to get the top recruits in the ACC, SEC, but there's another X factor that Deshaun Watson brought to the table last year, and excuse me, put him over the top against Alabama. And I think that Saban and the defense just overcame.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that, and you're right. When you talk about Deshaun Watson, you just don't replace a guy like that.
No, and I think he was taken kind of for granted a little bit last year.
He was, and because when you look at that team, right? Because we all knew Clemson's front four. I mean, they're putting three guys in the NFL from that front four. We all knew their front four was good, and they had a great defense. But when you look at them on offense, right? You lose Mike Williams to the Chargers, who's a stud receiver, and you lose Deshaun Watson. Those are pieces that you just don't replace, right?
Yeah.
I mean, teams don't recover from that right away when you're losing an NFL starting wide receiver and quarterback.
And match those losses with a professional defense and Nick Saban's experience and what he brings to the table, and it just wasn't a good formula for them. And I thought so.
And it calculates to a boat race. That's what it came down to.
Yeah.
So national championship game, you started on, Nikki, all SEC championship, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We got a great segment coming up here for college football. You guys are really going to enjoy it because everybody did last night when we did the little bar talk. But let's talk about the national championship. So let's give you a little prof system look at it here before we break down the teams themselves. So the line opened at -4. I took a look today, Nikki. I see it at 3. Does that tell you anything?
I saw it at 3.5. It tells you a little bit. We're still we've got a couple days to go on it, so keep an eye. I mean, with the championships, it's a lot harder than just a regular season game. If you were going up against, if this was Bama versus Georgia in say week 5 or 6, you look at the movement a little bit more. This is a championship game where everybody's eyes are kind of focused on this game. You're not going to see as much movement, but the movement that you do see is going to be more telling, I think. So I'm still sticking with Bama, even though it dropped a half point, but that could change over the next 2 days. My pick, if we're getting into them right now, I'd stick with Bama just based on experience, Saban, and that defense. It's going to be too much, I think, for Georgia to overcome. Georgia does have a nice offense, but I would take Bama's defense over that high-powered offense at this point still. Unless there's a huge move. If it drops to a pick'em, yeah.
Well, that's telling you.
Know what I mean?
If it drops to a pick'em, that's telling you something. I agree. So there's a couple things with this game, and I agree with your take. Georgia has a very good offense, and Alabama has a very good defense. What concerns me about
I really like that quarterback from Georgia too.
Yes. What concerns me about Georgia coming into this game is Oklahoma and Baker shredded them. Man. I mean, they tore them up. Now, Bama doesn't bring that type of dynamic spread attack, but it looks like that mobile quarterback really bothers Georgia. And you know that Jalen Hurts, Alabama's quarterback, is going to run.
Yeah.
He's going to run the ball, and if that's a problem for them, they're going to have a hard time slowing Alabama down.
Yeah, I mentioned a lot about their defense, but that doesn't mean that their offense is incapable. But it is really interesting that going into this playoff that Alabama was not considered the odd man out, but they were actually looked at it, and we had this discussion.
And we're gonna have it some more
We
tonight.
can fire a lot of people up, but it really comes down to the matchups. I think it wasn't necessarily that I thought Alabama should have been out. I did, if you compared them to Ohio State at the time, but they're definitely a capable team, offensively and especially defensively. So, the whole SEC thing in the finals is interesting, and it's going to spark a lot of debate. But whether that's warranted or not, I don't necessarily.
It's
think it
warranted.
is.
Swags has got a hot take on that one, but I actually, as much as I would try and talk myself into Georgia, I wouldn't. I'm going to roll Tide. I'm going to take it up to 4 or 5. Right? I'll lay the points. I'm rolling Tide. I just think that things that we just touched on are going to be too much for Georgia. I think Alabama's offense is going to be able to score enough points, and I don't think Georgia's offense will be able to score enough points. So I see at least a touchdown victory for Bama. Roll Tide. And yet that segues into a couple things that Nick and I want to do today with this. So the irony of this, Bama winning the national championship, is that there's a contingent of folks, I think, Prof included, and actually a good friend of the show, Tom Nugent from Wisconsin, who thinks that Ohio State should have been in that Bama slot. And the points that they stand on, right, that yourself and Tom and others stand on there is that Ohio State won their conference, right? Alabama did not. And then you look at strength of schedule, Bama really didn't play that strong of a schedule outside the SEC or even in the SEC, right? Because they didn't have to play Georgia. And Ohio State did play that big-time schedule, obviously playing Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
So when we talked about that, the irony of this now is that Bama is the favorite to win the national championship, and they almost didn't get in.
It's about matchups there, but so you look at hindsight, but you also look at what these teams need to do to get in. That should be on them. That's a scheduling thing. That they need to schedule around that. Now that they did get in, it's not. I don't think anybody was saying that Alabama was not, worthy of making that playoff spot. But when you narrow it down to 4, you have to look at all the factors. And not winning a conference, taking the easier schedule, that needs to, and I think that's where the argument's made. It's not necessarily that they're an incapable group of players, and it's.
No, you make a good point, because what we do a lot of times when we do this is, because I think we all agree that Iowa State was deserving to be in the playoff. But the problem is we try and take things away from these teams and say why they shouldn't be in. Really what we're looking for is who's more deserving. And the thing for Alabama, we even touched on this, is what hurt them this year really bad in that strength of schedule is the Florida State collapse, right? Because they scheduled Florida State as their first game of the year, which is almost unprecedented. Like 1 playing 2 out of conference, that's a huge game. But all of a sudden in the Bama game, Francois gets hurt, and now Florida State's season falls apart. They wind up 6-6, and now all of a sudden it looks like Bama didn't play anybody off schedule because Florida State totally collapsed.
Right, so and that's hindsight too. And we did mention that. We mentioned that earlier when we were actually looking at the selections and who should be picked, is maybe that did factor in that one game, and that would have been a big game if Florida State pans out to be
right.
What we
if you figure Florida State ends up going with 2 losses and one of them being Bama from there, and they're a big time program, all of a sudden Bama's strength of schedule looks really good, right?
Right. Well, not as good as certain teams that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, but better, a lot better.
So we're going to have a lot of fun here, and unfortunately, I just got a text. I don't mind doing this live on air. They just got a text from our buddy wants to call in. He's not going to be able to do it, but I have his selection, so we're gonna throw some flavor in here.
All right.
So what we wanted to do, I have a problem with. On the show we have a problem with there only being 4. I personally had a problem with first the 4. I don't think we should have an all SEC final because to me, I thought rating Clemson number 1 was high for them. I think the ACC was down this year. I think the SEC is the best conference. A 1-loss Georgia team coming out of the SEC should have been ranked 1. Therefore, you would have had Georgia-Bama game 1, and then we wouldn't have an all-SEC final. And I think the proof is in the pudding because Bama spanked Clemson, proving that they were really not deserving of the 1 seed. Now, that being said, Prof wanted to expand to a 16-team playoff.
And I think it's warranted now that I sat down and look at trying to narrow it down to an 8-team playoff. I think it's even.
He still wants to go 16.
You know, I looked at this when you mentioned why 16, why don't we go 8? And I'm thinking, okay, he's probably right. You would have a clear-cut 8 teams to get in. But I sat down this morning for almost an hour and a half to 2 hours looking at who plays who and who's worthy of what. What's the harm in letting it play out on the field with 16 teams? You have a month between when these games are played. From December to the last game was played on New Year's Day. I mean, you have a full month to get some games in. It doesn't have to be every Saturday. It doesn't have to be every Sunday. Like, there's enough time and there's enough money, obviously, to get this thing done.
All right, so let me ask you a question if we go 16, because this came up last night. Coach Wynn, actually, the Miata man himself, he wanted to go, when we were talking about this, he didn't want to go to 8, he wanted to go to 12. And what he wanted to do, let me ask you this. If we go to 16, do you include every conference championship as like an automatic bid? Is the same way you would in the NCAA tournament?
Absolutely, but you could do that with 8 too.
You can't do it with 8.
Yes, you can. You
No,
can do
I'm
the
not.
Big
All
Five.
right, okay. So all right. Let me clarify. No, I'm not just talking about the Big 5. I'm talking about every major conference, all 11.
No. It needs to be Big 5.
Or the Miata man wants to have all the major conference teams get in automatically.
No.
So like the MAC champ, the WAC champ,
No.
the Mountain West
That's
champ,
ridiculous.
they're in automatically, and then we do almost like an NCAA tournament game plan.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't
If you
agree with that philosophy. I didn't want to see. I said this last night. I didn't want to see a 3-loss MAC champ in there.
No,
I didn't.
True.
So all right. So here's where we're going with this. So being as I'm the king, the king is all powerful, and the king is granting powers to himself, to the prophet. Prophet, you're now the committee by yourself. You're the committee. You're all powerful, all knowing. You get to give me 8 teams for this playoff system.
It was difficult, man.
You get to give me 8 teams, and you're going to tell me who's your next 4 in.
All right, so I looked at this, and it took me a while to figure this out. It really did. I didn't think it was going to. I went through a number of different teams. Obviously, we know the first 4. Actually, we know the first 5, right? Alabama, Georgia. We know the first 6. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Number 6, I have UCF in there.
Okay.
I don't know.
For everybody, just in case you didn't know, UCF's University of Central Florida. They went undefeated. I'm not going to talk about it. Here's the problem. We're almost playing a little hindsight here because
I'm going to tell you.
UCF played Auburn in a bowl game, and there was some hot debate about that last night too. But UCF went undefeated.
Right.
Continue, Prop.
So UCF, I wasn't the biggest fan of putting them in a 6th spot, but what I think, you can't take away the undefeated season from them. Okay, now you look at strength of schedule. To the naked eye, it doesn't look like it's the strongest schedule, but they do have actually 4 at this point ranked opponents that they've beaten this year. Now they beat Memphis twice. Does that count? How much does that factor in? It's a ranked opponent.
It's hard to beat the same team in the same season twice, right? I mean, we saw it with Georgia Auburn.
They beat USF, South Florida, which was a big game for them. Again, kind of on the same wavelength as Memphis, and they're not like a big name that you're looking for, but a ranked opponent nonetheless. And then Auburn, the bowl game victory. That's that's kind of what I wasn't sure we were factoring in was the bowl games, because this is a hindsight thing. I'm factoring it in now.
Right.
But
and the reason we're expanding to 8 is so Coach T, who I was talking to last night, who wanted to call him, but he's not going to be able to. I got his picks, and we're going to throw them in so we have a third opinion here. I granted Coach T the King's powers as well. He made a good point about that bowl game, whereas Auburn, it's a letdown for them because they were looking, if they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, they would have been in the top 4, and now they're just playing a UCF team. So there's a little bit of a letdown there. But the reason that we're granting these powers is because we could see UCF play Auburn in actual meaningful game, right? If we go to 8 teams, then that game means something. That's an important game for these teams. And so that's why we're doing this exercise with 8 teams.
I left Auburn out.
Okay.
I didn't like leaving them out because if you look at the strength of schedule numbers, they are number one by far. Now you look at their losses, and they have 4 losses, and it's that balance, man. It's what weighs more than the other thing.
Well,
And I couldn't put a team with 4 losses in. So that's where scheduling comes in. Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it hurts you. And when does your propensity to schedule those crazy games, or just knowing that you're in the conference that you're in, sometimes you got to dial it back a little bit.
And it's the Notre Dame effect, right? When you look, Notre Dame's schedule is such a tough schedule every year.
Right.
One, because they're not in a conference. 2, because they're Notre Dame, right? I mean, they're a money-generating beast, and they schedule this tough schedule every year.
Right.
When you look at like a 3-loss Notre Dame team, their strength of schedule is impressive. Their losses always come to great teams. And so, well, not always, but when you look at that strength of schedule, you've got to win those games. If you're high risk, high reward, right? Because if you win all those games, you're a lock to get in. But if you lose 2, you're done.
Yeah, so their losses came to.
They lost to the U. They got blown out by the U.
They lost to Clemson. That's
Clemson, good loss. Yep.
They lost to LSU.
Tough game, barely.
Tough game.
They should have won that game.
Tough game. Is it forgivable?
No, not this year.
They beat Alabama. Like, that's the thing about them. It's crazy. Like, they have big wins. They have big wins that came late in the season. And that's why it was difficult for me to leave them out. But the next 2 teams that I put in, people will disagree with this, but the first is USC, Pac-12 champ. The championship means something to me. It doesn't mean everything to anybody else, but they had a tough schedule as well. It wasn't near the top or anything like that. I think it was something around like 15. But they did win the championship. They had some tough games. They played Stanford a couple times. They had some pretty big wins there, right?
Yeah, they so actually the irony of the USC Ohio State comparison when it was for the 3rd slot, when it was Bama, Ohio State, and USC for the 4th slot, I'm sorry, is actually if you look at strength of schedule, top 25, and those things, and you do them side by side with Ohio State, USC's resume surprisingly is more impressive.
It's debatable. I mean, it's debatable based on how the Pac-12 played out in their bowl games. It was like kind of a disgraceful performance for them.
Yeah, the Pac-12 was horrible in bowl games. I personally think the Pac-12 is down, and so when we get to my 4, I'm going to talk about that even more.
Well, my last team I put in was Penn State.
Ooh.
My last team I put in was Penn State because I just feel like the strength of their conference is a lot better than people gave them credit for. SEC is a little bit overrated to me this particular year, and that's the difference is from year to year these things change, but we go based on what the strength was last year a lot of times. It played out that they made it's an all SEC final, but that's based on if you put 4 SEC teams in, 2 SEC teams are going to play in the national championship.
So you like the top of the Big Ten better than you like the top of the SEC. So because you really,
I do.
If you think about it, you're really supplanting Penn State for Auburn here, right?
Yeah, because number one, 4 losses, you can't put in 4 losses. If you're looking at 3 losses to 2 losses, maybe, and that strength of schedule might help you there, but I think Auburn ended up cutting off their nose to spite their face.
So this is great. So let's go. I'm going to go to my 4. So the King has taken the powers away from the prof and given them back to himself, and he's going to give you his next 4 committee. So we agree on 5 and 6, actually. Ohio State coming in 5th. I've got UCF 6, same as you.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with UCF. I get it, the conference, I get it, the schedule, but let me ask you a question, Nick. And I brought this up last night because Coach T really hated the UCF inclusion. There's 115 Division I teams, right? How many of them go undefeated every year? I can give you the answer, none. It just doesn't happen. Memphis, Houston, all these teams that win 11 games, right, they always slip up. The fact that UCF went through the entire season unblemished, to me, they deserve a shot at the dance, not when there's 4 teams, but absolutely when there's 8. So I got UCF at 6. I have Auburn at 7.
Yeah, it's just not. I can't do it. I tried every way to do it.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why when I give you my 8th, and then I put USC at 8, but I don't want to. But I put them there. To me, because the way the committee works, we're not necessarily obligated right now to put anything in. We have particular guidelines that we are told we have to abide by, right? Whereas conference championship has a weight, but not necessarily everything.
We're not really told that.
No,
we're not told that.
And to me, Auburn beat both Bama and Georgia. Okay, they're in. They're in. To me, they're one of the top 8 teams. And quite frankly, if Wisconsin played a bit tougher of a schedule, I would have put them in over USC.
No, and that's the one team that was my first team out. And let me tell you why.
Because you're a strength of schedule guy.
They do not have one big win until their bowl game, and their big win in their bowl game was against Miami, who was skidding.
Yes.
They lost to Pitt, Clemson, and Wisconsin the last 3 weeks of their season. They don't have a big win on there. They don't have anything that stands out to say, put me in this.
I agree with you.
That's where the strength of schedule hurts. It's a balance.
I'm with you. That's why I kept USC in and not Wisconsin. So my 8th is USC. So what I've seen, okay, it's funny because we've got 2 other pools to go from. So Coach T gave us Ohio State, Auburn, USC, but he does not like UCF.
Yeah, I see him saying that too, but you need to give some credit where credit's due. When you come into a season and you're UCF and you're not necessarily expected to hang with the big boys, but you come in and beat 3 ranked opponents, actually what turns out to be 4 ranked opponents, and you close out the season undefeated, what else can you do? Like, what else can you do?
I'm with
you. You're
you.
a Division I program. What else can you do coming into the season?
We're in agreement. I want to see UCF the same way Boise State, right, and teams that run the gamut. No teams just don't do it. They're the first undefeated team to run it since Boise State. And what was that, 8 years ago? Teams just don't play a Division I NCAA football schedule and go undefeated. I want to see them at the dance.
Well, and that's why I think this playoff system is going to be good, because you need to have a platform for teams like the UCFs to put themselves on the map instead of being the same teams over and over. Otherwise, we can just pick 4 SEC teams, an ACC team.
You're absolutely right.
We can just do that for all of eternity.
It's also why I don't want to go 16, because I don't want to see Wisconsin playing Auburn and Penn State playing Ole Miss. Like, I don't want to see the 4th best team in the SEC playing the 4th best team in the Big Ten, because I feel like if we go to 16, that's what we're going to see.
Right. So you know what will happen next year with this. Okay. So UCF puts up a season like this. That gives them national attention. It draws recruits in. Right. You're going to see them boost their schedule. You're going to see them compete with teams like Ohio State. You're going to see them schedule teams like USC, so that it's not as undefined as it's been for them for especially this year. But you need this platform. That's why I want to open it up to as many teams as you can, because you need to give some of these teams some national exposure where it's been SEC for the last decade.
So
Jeez, sorry about that.
Prof got a little excited there. So I'm in agreement with you, but here's the problem. And this is my biggest problem, actually, aside from even seeing like Penn State playing Ole Miss in a playoff system. Here's my real problem. The beauty and the sanctity of college football comes in how important every regular season game. You like that? Yeah. Comes in how important every regular season game is, right? When you play a 12-game schedule, you can't have more than 1 loss, or else you're out. And so every game is so important. And if we let 12 or 16 teams into the dance, we're just lessening the importance of these regular seasons. And that's why I would not go more than 8. I can't endorse more than 8. I think 8 is the perfect number for this system. But I think 16, you're just letting too many teams get in when we put such an onus on the regular season of college football. Every game is so special because that 1 loss can kill you.
Yeah, that 1 loss can kill you, but it also promotes the strength of it promotes scheduling better teams. It promotes that. So when you have a team like UCF that, okay, it's now at 8 teams, we have an outside shot to get in. Let's take our chances instead of playing in the Chick-fil-A bowl game that nobody's watching or nobody cares about. It might bring in a certain amount of money but once you get into that playoff, that opens the door for a lot of different things. You can now say, we've been to a college football playoff.
You're not wrong.
I'm looking more at the smaller teams.
No,
here.
you're not wrong.
Even at this point, the Penn States, who's been off the map for a number of years, different story maybe altogether, but you're looking at different teams that don't have the pedigree, and that's
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Washington's.
Well, but you're still talking all Power 5 conference teams. I mean, for them, their path is clear.
And
if you're in a Power 5
teams.
conference, your path is clear. You win your conference, you're getting. Well, actually, it's not that clear because Ohio State won the Big Ten.
But you're still promoting that team. The best teams play. There's more competition to get in.
But by my system, right, and not including the automatic bids, if I think Notre Dame at 3 losses is better than some second place SEC team, I'm putting them in. And the committee proved to you this year that they're going to put in the best teams that they think, whether it's 4 or 8, because they put Alabama in over Ohio State, even though Ohio State won their conference. So to me, I like going to 8 and still having that flexibility of, look, if I think a 3-loss SEC team is better than some 1-loss Wisconsin Big Ten team, then I'm putting them in because we're all powerful, right?
But if you open it up to 16 and let's say both of those teams get in, now we can define what conferences are stronger than others from year to year. We know the history of certain things, but when you have different conferences that are going to be playing each other, okay, we look at the bowl games, the matchups. Pac-12 stunk this year in the bowl games. The Big Ten was awesome this year in the bowl games. Does that necessarily mean that the Big Ten's better than the Pac-12? No, because we don't really know. I mean, we can look at who they played.
True.
Let's get them all together, just like any playoff systems that's ever been assembled, and just go from there. There's so many teams. It's not like the NFL where there's a finite amount of teams. There's so many Division I football teams.
115, I believe.
So why are we excluding off the bat certain teams? Let's let teams make their schedules to work toward that playoff system, even if it's an outside shot to get in. It still gives them reason to be on the national stage.
It's a great point, and it's a great debate. So I don't think we're going to agree on this one, but certainly the 16 team and like I said, Wint was angling for 12. So yeah, it's a great debate.
I wouldn't mind that either. But
listen, guys, tell us what you think in the comment section. Tell us your 4 teams. Text into the show. Tell us how you have in. Tell us how you hate our next 4 in or next 4 out. We want to hear it. We want to. We'll sit with you all night. We'll have a couple cold ones and go over it.
Yep. All right. What do you got, Jackie boy?
All right. Well, let's move to the NFL, buddy, because we are about 2 hours away from the first NFL playoff game starting, and
wow,
we are at Wild Card Weekend, Nikki. We're through this season. Let's start in the AFC. So your 1 and 2 seeds, as predicted by every single person on God's green earth, the Patriots and the Steelers, 1-2.
Mm-hmm. Naturally,
of course. Vicky just blew my ears out with
Sorry,
NFL.
Surprises.
Yeah, he got me. So let's talk about the games in the AFC. We'll start with the 4-5 because that's playing today. That's the Chiefs-Titans. Okay, the Titans travel to the Chiefs. Chiefs win the AFC West. Titans finish second in the dreadful AFC South.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a long time.
Let's just talk about these AFC playoff teams. I mean, this conference, it's weak outside of Pittsburgh and New England. Again, these teams, look at these 4 teams. Jaguars, Chiefs, Titans, and Bills.
Well, yeah, you say that, but if Jacksonville has a quarterback, they're a decent team, right?
Yeah, well, you know my favorite saying, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean,
I know.
That team. Well, we're gonna break the games down too, so we'll get to that. But it's amazing to me how it's just gonna be a race to the Pat Steelers again. We're turning into like the NBA here. We already know what the AFC final is every year. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Steelers. I think the funny thing is, this might be like the last year for that. Just
so you want to talk? All right. So before we get into that, you want to talk about why? You want to talk about the trouble in paradise up in New England?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. So ESPN Seth Wickersham reports that there was major conflict this week with Kraft, Belichick, and Brady, and because I'm so tied into New England, as the prof well knows, I followed this pretty closely, and I'll give you the highlights.
You're tied into New England.
I'll give you the highlights of Seth's article. What he says is essentially, obviously, we heard it reported in the media that Tom Brady has this TB12 system, and he's got his guy, his trainer, he was in the stadium all the time, right? He had his own office, and he always had access. And what it seemed to be happening was he was getting more and more people to come to him, and Brady's sort of trying to get people to convert. He's almost got like a cult type of CrossFit following type of thing going on here, where he wants people to convert and do the system. And Belichick finally had enough and threw this guy out, and that put a big rift between Tom and Bill. Throw on top of that the Garoppolo thing, because obviously Tom's trying to play another 4 years. Right now he's 41. He said he wants to play till he's 45. Tom goes above Belichick's head to Kraft and brings up some points that he doesn't feel like Bill's on his side. And I guess Kraft laid the hammer down on Bill, and now it's just chaos up in New England.
This is complete like clickbait stuff that I don't think affects the way he's going to play or the way he's going to coach. It's complete clickbait stuff, and I've heard so many different theories on this stuff. Like Jimmy Garoppolo was traded to San Francisco to spite Tom Brady because Tom Brady grew up in San Francisco and he wanted to be the next Joe Montana. And now Jimmy Garoppolo's
now he can't root for the Niners anymore when he's done playing.
On, man.
Yeah, I know. Well,
this is the best quarterback that's ever played in the game.
There's a ton of theories about the Graps to the Niners thing too, right? Because you have the Shanahan connection there. Young Shanahan came and worshipped at the altar of Belichick, and so Belichick was like, "Oh, well, he'll take care of my guy. You know, Jimmy is Belichick's guy. He'll take care of my Jimmy Graps. Let me send him out there."
It's conspiracy theory, man. Like,
you know who said it best? I think the Barstool president said it best. He goes, "This is very Barstooly."
It is. It's like a almost like a high school. It's like a dramedy. Right. Like, it's kind of ridiculous the way that these reports are coming out and how the media plays into it.
They love it. They love it.
You can watch a national radio show for more than 10 minutes without hearing about Tom Brady.
No, you can't.
Or like a comparison to him.
You can't.
Or a comparison to Belichick.
I don't think 10 minutes might be aggressive.
It's kind of over. I'm over the thing. I think Brady's getting on his last leg and he wants to promote his brand. I got a couple TB12 T-shirts for Christmas.
Are you getting the TB12 system, Prof? Breaking news.
I should, man. I'd be down to like $1.70.
He's all about the soft tissue. I'll tell you, I read some of it. Some of it's actually really good. But here's the problem: whenever you see these type of systems, right? There's always a good portion of it that's very good, and then a lot of it's like over the top. Like, are you going to wear kale pajamas to bed? Yeah, that's what Tom does.
I can afford them. I would wear them to bed.
Yeah. Get yourself a bed built on kale.
Should see some of my sweatpants from when I was still in high school. That's what I sleep in now.
All right. So I think we both are in agreement that this New England stuff is what, is hogwash, but it is fun to talk about.
It is fun to talk about, and it's going to be fun to listen to because when you watch these games during the playoffs, they're going to lead with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be Tom Rinaldi voiceover on SportsCenter.
The first time Belichick and Brady are talking on the sideline about like a play, right? Because it's the head coach and quarterback, and be like, "Oh, they're getting into it. He's yelling at them. We got problems."
In 5 years, you'll watch the 30 for 30.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
The four falls of New England this time.
What if I told you that Tom Brady wants to be Joe?
What if I told you that Bill Belichick secretly hates Tom Brady?
These guys, these are two of the best. These are two of the best to do it ever.
And you know what I heard too, which is a great point. Look, these guys have been together for 17 years. Eventually, everybody wears on each other. And when you get to that pinnacle of greatness, you get egos that come with it. Part of being that great is having that ego, that bravado, the confidence. And eventually you wear on each other, right? Because Belichick's getting older. He's going to be ready to exit soon. Tom's getting older. He's ready to exit soon. They both want to do it on their own terms. There's a lot that plays into that.
Well, maybe it's just part ways, but I don't think that there's enough spite there to try to derail what they're trying to do this year. They're still going after. They're still both going after their legacy. And
oh yeah,
it was funny. I watched last night. I forget who it was reporting on it, but Tom Brady did an interview. Whether it was a year, 2 years ago, and he said there's got to be something more than football. There's got to be something more to this, and I think that he was trying to set up the next stage of his life, whether it was this nutrition thing or his, his marketing or whatever he's doing with the TB12. But they said that now he wants to set up his legacy as like the oldest guy to and the most successful guy at this age.
He wants to play in the NFL until he's 45.
Yeah, but the reports about Garoppolo and him not taking him under his wing and stuff like that. That's not new. I don't think that's new for a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. When you look at Rodgers and Favre,
that's a great example.
Look at there's been a couple with that. I don't know if.
Listen, as an athlete yourself, are you there to groom your replacement? No. It's great for them to get to watch you, and watching Brady and Favre and the way they went about their business, and that is enough. But I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm not ready to give you my job.
No, and to continue to play at the level that he does, and guys like Favre did, and like the Mannings and stuff like that, is there's a direct focus on their craft. I mean, there's no time to be a mentor and a teacher and a tutor. They were one-track mind.
That's right.
And that's what makes them great. So I don't fault either.
No, you're 100% right. And because you know what they talk about. They talk about guys like Brunell and guys that late in their career came backups. And the value of having them was that they could do that, right? They could be mentors because they weren't preparing to be the number one. They're preparing to be the number two, and they're helping this guy be prepared to be the number one. There's a big difference between being the number one and then having the two prepare you. And then on the flip side of that, when you have these young guys, they're not really as good at being the number two because they're not in the league that long. And actually, it brings up a good point about people always complain that, oh, these guys hang on the league for 10 to 12 years as a backup. Well, they do that for a reason because they have some game experience and they understand what it takes to win in this league or play in this league, and they can help the starting quarterback prepare.
Right. And being in this league and hanging around for too long, there's a reason people, if you weren't of value to a team,
they wouldn't keep you.
They wouldn't keep you.
Totally agree.
Their value comes in a lot of different ways, and whether it's your playing ability or what you can bring to the table as almost a mentor or a different coach, like you're almost sort of an assistant coach. So if you bring value to the team, they will keep you around.
Absolutely.
They will pay you to bring that value.
Look at here in Philly.
It's the same with any business.
And it goes, and it's either they keep you, especially as a quarterback, if you can still get it done as a backup, they'll keep you that way. But look at guys that go straight into coaching in multiple sports. Right here in Philly, Deuce Staley was a very successful running back for us, but he was so knowledgeable. Right when he gets done, he's right into being the running backs coach because some of these guys are so cerebral and they're so in touch with the game that their value, to your point, is intrinsic. The team doesn't want to let you go.
Right.
You might not be able to get it down the field anymore, but the value you add is too much to let you go.
Right, and that's what Do I see somebody like Tom Brady getting into coaching? No, because he's.
Well, that's another thing we could go for days on about how the great ones typically don't make good coaches, right?
Yeah, and there's also a reason for that. It's because it's, like I said before, it's a one-track thing. You have to have a little bit of ego to yourself to be that great sometimes.
Totally agree.
And
I've got a huge ego. I'm not that great.
Jack, you do just fine. All right,
moving on. Let's do some games, buddy. Let's talk about today's game. Chiefs-Titans. You ready for this?
Chiefs-Titans.
Here we go. So
hold on. Let me get to
You got your notes?
Pages of notes that I have.
I was just checking the lines. I love to check the lines.
What do you got?
So the Chiefs-Titans open Chiefs -9. It is down right now. We're an hour and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes from game time. It's down to -8.
Yeah, that's what I had this morning.
Yep. So who you got? Give me a breakdown.
All right. Funny thing about the divisional games, this may be a useful stat or not, but in the last, I did 10 years. Okay? So in the last 10 years, these divisional games were won by 10 points or more, 25 out of the last 40 games that were played. That's pretty significant. I think these games tend to be more blowouts, and the only reason I mention this is because when you look at some of these higher lines that come, like open up at 9, open up at 10, sometimes they're warranted, and I think this is one of those cases where a higher line, even if it opened up at -8, it's warranted. So today in Kansas City, it's going to be 14 degrees. So when I see a game like, I don't usually factor weather into this, but you look at who's the best running team, who has the better running game.
Kansas City.
Exactly.
By the way, DeMarco Murray's out for the Titans today, but he's always out, isn't he? And quite frankly, they might bear down because Derrick Henry's a monster.
Yeah, they might be at this point. I think DeMarco might be done. But in a 14-degree game in Kansas City, this is probably the only game where weather is going to be a factor. I think it's supposed to warm up in Jacksonville, but whatever. Who has the better running game? Question I ask myself. Kansas City is 9th overall. It's not stellar, but they do have the number one rusher in the league in Hunt. Tennessee's pretty much across the board 15th in everything. So they're in the middle of the road. Decent running game, but
I saw something this morning that was you might appreciate here stat-wise. They're actually ranked 8th defensive efficiency, but I don't think their defense is that good. I think that they've benefited from getting to play the Texans twice and the Jags twice. I mean, although the Jags blew them out the one game, but that division's weak. The Colts twice, right? They ranked 8th defensive efficiency, but to me they're middle of the pack. To your point, I think they're all middle of the pack.
Stick with the running game in Kansas City. Kansas City is the first team. They're number one overall in yards per attempt. Stay with them. I take Kansas City -8. There.
You want to lay the points?
Yeah, lay the points. Take Kansas City. That's my pick there. What do you got?
All right, so I'm in agreement with you. And here's my thing. When I looked at these, so these are all big lines, right? I mean, across the board, the smallest line is 6, and the smallest line open at 6.5. So these are all big lines, and you have to find yourself not being too scared of these big lines in Division One because there's going to be blowouts, right? And my thing, when I look at these games, especially let's talk about the Chiefs-Titans game. When I look at this game, I don't personally think the Chiefs are very good, and I think the Titans are completely average. So when I look at two average teams going at each other, Nick's point, who's going to move the ball better? I think the Titans will be able to move the ball against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will be able to move the ball against the Titans. When I see the line at 9, now it's down to 8, I really want the points there because I think Tennessee hangs around. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the Titans with the points here. I think the Chiefs win the game, but I think they probably win by 3 to 6 to 7.
Watch those divisional blowouts, dude.
Well, let's talk about the other AFC
The
game.
wild card blowouts, not divisional.
Yeah, let's talk about the other AFC game now. Let's talk about the Bills-Jags because I'm going to go first. I smell blowout. I think the Jags are going to dominate the Bills. You know Swags has an affinity for the Buffalo Bills, but
yeah, you do.
I just checked that line. It opened at 9. It's still at 9, and quite frankly, take the Jags. They are going to destroy the Bills. The Bills with no Shady McCoy, by the way. Breaking news, Shady's out.
Yeah, you have all my points in here.
Yeah, without Shady, that team's got nothing, and the Jags are going to smother Tyrod, and I don't see the Bills putting up any points against that defense, and if the Jags get 14, that'll probably be enough to cover. Take the Jags.
So this game's tomorrow, right?
That's correct.
So just hang on to the line, watch it a little bit, but I am with you. Take the Jags -9. This is a blowout if Shady's not going. If that's
He's
confirmed.
doubtful right now, so I don't see any way he goes.
Yeah, so I think that -9 is because of that. So the line says that Shady's out.
By the way,
and even if he is in, he's not 100%.
Pro betting tip, I may actually lock the Jags in today because I don't want that to go to double digits because when Shady gets confirmed out, which is going to happen, you heard it here first, that line may even move up even more.
Not a bad tip right there. But with the Jacksonville's defense, either way, Tyrod's not going to be able to throw on them. They're not going to be able to run with a 50% Shady. Running games. The running game of Jacksonville is really good too.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
They don't have a quarterback as that's been well storied, but the line tells you take the Jags here. It'll be 54 in Jacksonville by tomorrow, even though it's like 30 right now.
That's right.
Take Jacksonville -9.
All right, let's do NFC. So when we talk NFC playoffs, well documented here in Philadelphia, the Eagles in a weird spot here, the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, but of course MVP candidate Carson Wentz down. Vikings get the 2 seed. Vikings look solid all year. Nicky, the props boy, Case Keenum continues to get the job done despite my hate. The first game is today. That's going to be the Rams, the 3 seed, with the Falcons. Falcons coming to LA to play the Rams. And then the other game is the 4-5, the Panthers visiting the Saints. That's a division matchup. Couple just tidbits for these games. So it's the Saints-Panthers real quick. That's going to be the 3rd time these teams have played. The Saints have won both meetings, so that's always an interesting type of tidbit, right? And the Falcons-Rams, Falcons are the defending NFC champs, right? And actually, I wanted to just toot my own horn. I had this playoff picture, 5 weeks ago, Nicky?
Yeah, it's actually in one of my Oops, I messed up.
So let's start with today's game. Rams Falcons. Falcons going to LA. I'll give you the line update, Prof.
So I like it. I like it. I like it.
Line open 6.5.
I like this game.
It's at 6 right now. Who you got, Prof?
Interesting matchup. You have a first-year guy, first year in the playoffs anyway, in golf.
Rookie coach.
Rookie coach, essentially a rookie quarterback. I'm going Atlanta. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout. This game reminds me a lot of what the Eagles-Rams game was a couple weeks ago, where it was like back and forth. Was it 39-38 or something like that? I see it being a very high-scoring game. Weather's not a factor, obviously. Can Atlanta run the ball?
That's the big question.
No, the biggest question is, can you contain Gurley? Gurley's going to run on you. He runs on everybody.
Can you
What the heck
contain?
was that?
That's my ring.
Oh my gosh. Can you contain Gurley? Make Goff throw the ball.
So,
Make him make decisions.
can you contain the Rams offense? Number one offense in the game. Number one offense in the NFL, the Rams. Can you contain that offense? Because they are putting up points in droves.
They are, but I don't think that's. I think Atlanta can shoot it out with them. Obviously, whenever you have Julio Jones, I think you can shoot it out with anybody.
To your point, biggest over/under on the table of all 4 games, 48.
Yeah, that's why I went with this high scoring game. But I'm taking the 5.5 points. I'm taking Atlanta.
Okay, so
Maybe an outright win here.
Prof maybe going out.
I like the experience. I doubted Ryan coming in. That's one of my things later on. But since they did get in, I like Quinn coming back and kind of revamping the offense a little bit in the last couple of weeks. They had a big win last week. I like it with Julio. Anybody with Julio Jones, just give the guy the ball.
The alien that he is, Julio, complete freak.
You never know what can happen that way. I don't like the inexperience of the Rams. I say if you can make Goff make some decisions and throw the ball, you have a good shot.
So the irony of this, right? The Falcons are the 6th seed in the NFC, and we just talked about how weak the AFC is. Let me ask you this, Prof. 1 through 6 in the NFC, you could see any of these teams making it, right? To the Super Bowl.
Yeah, these are tough calls.
The NFC is stacked, and it's just crazy how the AFC is so weak. And the NFC 1 through 6, you look at these teams. Look, the Falcons represented the NFC last year.
And the weakest team is the 1 seed.
Yeah, and it's all on its back because of Carson Wentz. So I'm with you here. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I actually this was my toughest pick. I vacillated on this pick a lot.
What did you do with it?
Vacillate. Look that up. Vacillate.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see.
Flags. I'm royally educated with my big words.
I thought that was a sponsorship. Go ahead, keep going.
So I'm actually going to take the Rams here, and I'm going to lay the points because I think they're going to win by more than a touchdown. What I think is going to happen in this game is I think it's going to be tight for 3 quarters, and I think Matty Ice is going to have himself a little meltdown come late, maybe pick 6, maybe fumble late, and then the Rams capitalize, and they may end up running away late with like a late double-digit win, but I think they get it by at least 7, so I'll take it up to 6.5. I'll take the Rams.
All right. I think Ryan comes in with confidence, but I see that too. That's right.
So
I disagree.
Yeah, we disagree all the time. Yeah. So, all right. So the next game, Saints-Panthers. So I started to allude to this. This is going to be a very interesting matchup because it's a division game, right? And the Saints are everybody's flavor of the month pick. Right, somebody left me a voicemail.
Come on, man. We gotta turn it off. Be professional.
Bro, I couldn't because I was waiting for Coach T to call in case I had to, right? So we talk about the Saints, and they're everybody's flavor of the month right now, right? I mean, I see a lot of prognosticators who think the Saints are the best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, and it's hard not to say that with the way that they're running the ball, the way their defense is playing, and they have a Hall of Fame quarterback back there.
It's all the tools of a Super Bowl caliber team, right? And the thing is, what they've realized with that defense, which I really like, is because they can run the ball and ball control, and they have such confidence there, their defense takes a lot of chances, and that's key because turning the ball over is so important in the NFL. And the Saints have been turning opponents over recently at very high numbers, and that rates very well going into the playoffs. If you can turn teams over in the playoffs, you win.
So what do you got?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, man.
All right, so let's talk about the Panthers. Cam Newton. I was a big Cam fan, and obviously 2 years ago, Cam MVP of the league, takes the Panthers to the Super Bowl, absolutely tears it up. And then last year, he sort of had a step back. I think he got hurt. The funny thing about this year is almost like a tale of two halves of the season for Cam. So the first half of the season, he looks bad. He looks slow. He's trying to throw from the pocket a lot, not running. All of a sudden, old Riverboat Ron took the shackles off of Cam. He starts running again, and that team starts dominating. You never count out a team with Cam, but he is very inconsistent. When I look down at this game, I see the 6.5, 7, and I think, can Carolina go into New Orleans and win a game? On the flip side of that, I think, can the Saints beat the Panthers 3 times in 1 year?
Those are all my notes that I have written down here, and I hate this game.
I hate it too.
I stay away from this game. As we talked about over the last couple of weeks, divisional games are really unpredictable, especially when, like you mentioned, the Saints have been 2-0 this season with big wins, 10 points and 21 points over the Panthers. But that still doesn't really give you an idea of who's going to show up. Is it going to be Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde in Cam Newton? And the guy's been too inconsistent to really predict. The fact that I have it at -7 here doesn't really tell you that much either, because you have New Orleans at home, which they're always a heavy favorite there. I love Luke Kuechly. I'm taking a complete full gamble here, and I'm going straight with Panthers to cover the 7.
Wow.
Not necessarily win the game.
We're in agreement.
But
I'm in agreement with you. I'm going to take Carolina. I think that I just have a hard time seeing the Saints blowing them out again.
Yeah.
Luke Kuechly, first team All-Pro, AP All-Pro, middle linebacker, probably the best middle linebacker in the game. I think Carolina is going to load up the box. It's crazy to think of this. They're going to make the Saints throw. If I told you that 2 years ago, your mind would be blown. But they're going to make Breeze put the ball in the air, and they're going to put pressure on him.
Yeah.
And I think that Cam and the Panthers will be able to move the ball against the Saints, because I think they're going to rely heavy on that run game, which has been tearing it up the last couple weeks. So I think I'll take the 7 as well. I think Carolina has a shot to win this game outright. I think the Saints are everybody's darling, and whenever everybody's all over one team, it typically goes the other way. So
I have no confidence in it whatsoever. I'm basing it on Cam playing the way he can, and not.
So let's talk about the rest of the NFC picture here. We talked about how there's 6 solid teams. We talked about how the Saints are a very sexy pick. How about the Eagles stumbling into the playoffs, Prof?
Yeah, it's not one of my favorite things to talk about at this moment.
Let's ask the question here that everybody in Philadelphia wants to know. Can the Eagles even win one playoff game with Foles as quarterback?
It's too hard to make that. It's too hard to make that assessment right now, because you don't know who they're going to play.
Well, they can't play the Rams. We know that. If the Rams win, they'll automatically play the Vikings because they reseed.
So let's ask it a different way. Who would you want to play if you could play someone?
So that's a tough question. Honestly, when I look top to bottom,
everybody that's answered that question so
Falcons.
far has said the Falcons, but I don't agree with that.
The irony is I just said we can't play the Rams. I think I'd rather play the Rams. Because Foles actually looked pretty good against the Rams defense.
This is going to sound weird too, because of all the things we just talked about and how nasty they are on all sides of the ball. But I would like some revenge for Nicky Foles on
the Saints.
The Saints.
At least they come to Philly this time.
I would like, because the Eagles have a very good run defense
and a very good running game.
And they do. And if you can knock their running game down, and you never want to make Breeze throw the ball, but if there was any year to make him throw the ball to receivers that he doesn't have the strongest receiving core, we have corners that are playing decent. Sidney Jones is kind of back into the mix. Whether or not he's going to contribute in the playoffs is to be seen, but I take my chances that way. I'd rather have our corners go up against the receivers on New Orleans than go up against the receivers on the Falcons at this point.
Well, nobody ever wants to go up against Julio.
But not even outside of Julio, they have who's their other guys?
Sanu.
Yeah,
They got little Taylor.
I just think that they have a lot of offensive firepower, and obviously so do the Saints. But if you're going to take away a running game, I would choose the Saints receivers over covering the Falcons receivers.
So I've been a strong supporter of Foles and the Eagles in the postseason here, but every week I can feel my confidence waning, and
Well, why wouldn't you?
it's just sucking away from me. I've been like one of the sole defenders, and it's just wearing down on me watching these games. I still think they can win a game regardless of who it is because the team has to come to Philly as long as the defense steps up and the running game looks good. I think Foles can get the job done, but we'll see.
Where does your confidence come in? Where can
With
you even
Foles,
make that
'cause-
statement?
All right, so here's what I'll tell you. When I broke down Foles and I looked at when he had success in the play action passing game. So if we come out early running the ball well and we can successfully play action pass, I think Foles will do well. We put three guys in the Pro Bowl for our offensive line. We have an AP All-Pro tackle and center. Two of our offensive linemen are all pros. That tells me that our O-line can get the job done, can run the ball and pass protect good enough for Nicky to have time to be effective. I mean, these are all points, but you never know, right?
Give him 30 seconds back there. Have you seen him throw the ball in the last 2 games?
He hasn't looked good. I'm with you. He hasn't looked
Looked good.
I know. I know, Prof. He hasn't looked good. He has not looked good. He's not looked good. I'm worried. But
God forbid it's 11 degrees outside.
Well, that actually
might snap in half.
That actually might help us. More running.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that we want to make other teams like the Saints or the Falcons go head to head on a running game. Like, I don't think that works out for us because I think the Saints' running game is better than our running game. So if it's a shootout, like who's going to put up more points? We're relying solely on our defense here.
Yes.
And solely on our running game that, to this point, we're not sure that the coaching staff is even convinced that they need to run the ball more.
Well, matchup.
And they've actually mentioned that they have no interest in that.
Matchup-wise, our two best teams would be the Panthers and the Rams, I think. But we can't play the Rams until the NFC Championship.
Hopefully we do. I hope it works out. I don't see it working out. I'm going to watch and hope for the best.
We'll be fans. All right.
I'm going to be.
So let's recap our
time.
picks here so that everybody knows because we made picks, but we've made them in each of the different segments. So go ahead and recap your 5 picks, Nikki, the college championship and your 4 playoffs.
College championship, Bama, -3.5 over Georgia. North Dakota State, -4 over JMU.
He's giving you a bonus pick. He's giving you a bonus pick.
Bonus pick. Take North Dakota State, Carson.
So let me. All right, go ahead.
Those are my college picks.
Go ahead,
my pro picks: Kansas City -8 over Tennessee. Second game today. Atlanta +5.5. I got them at 5.5 over the Rams today. Jacksonville -9 over Buffalo, and Carolina +7 over New Orleans. That's what I got. Jackson time stamping over there.
Not yet. I won't do that on there. I'll do that after. So what I was gonna do for you. All right. So college. I've also got Bama -3. Roll damn Tide.
Did we go over our picks from last week? Are we gonna do that?
We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that after this because I know Nikki's itching to go over his picks from last week. So roll damn Tide, and I'm gonna give you JMU. JMU outright over North Dakota State. Everybody's underestimating JMU. Take them. Take JMU in that game. Money line. That one's for J-Rod. Now, to the NFL games, I got the Jags -9. I'll take the Titans +8, Rams -6, and the Panthers +6.5.
All right.
Now, last week's picks. So let's start in college. Nikki 1-1 because he slid to Oklahoma.
No, stop.
You slid to Oklahoma, bro.
I gave out a couple.
I know. I'm talking about the bowl. I'm talking about the bowl championship games.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I gave you Auburn over UCF. That was no good. It was a dub. I gave you Bama over Clemson. I also gave you the under in that game.
True, he did. That's an extra. He gave it out.
I kind of gave you Georgia over Oklahoma, but I gave you a heart pick, which is against the system. I mixed you up there, and that's my mistake. So I'll take the -1. I also gave you. I gave you LSU over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yep. It didn't work out.
All right. So that was my college picks. My pro picks. Called some good ones last week.
Nikki had a great week.
These were good. These were good ones.
Nikki had a great week.
I called you San Francisco over the Rams.
We both had that one.
Outright. I gave you Indy over Houston.
Blowout.
Outright. I gave you Tampa over New Orleans. These are classic picks right here. These are classic process picks. But I did give you Buffalo in a loss. I'm sorry. I gave you Miami to beat Buffalo, and that did not pan
They'll
out.
circle the wagons.
It did.
No one circles them.
That's one of Jackie Boy's favorites.
So college, Swags gave you UCF outright over Auburn. That was a big one. He gave you Wisconsin, which you talked about last week, which ended up covering at the 6.5. Didn't look good for us in the beginning. You came out hot and then did what they do best, just collapse. Then the college bowl system, the college playoffs, Swags 2-0 took both SEC teams -3, and they both covered. Big wins there. Moving to the NFL again, Swags 2-1. How about it, Prof? I am just hot in the NFL. 11-4 against the spread.
Can you expand it? You need to expand it to 4 picks.
Well, I'm doing 4 this week because we're doing playoffs, so
That's good.
it'll be 4. Because he wants to see if I can get that extra loss so he can catch up in the record-wise. Because I'm just killing it 2-1 every week.
Just give these locks.
Yeah, so I'm 2-1 again. My loss. All right, and actually, we're going to talk about this in the next segment. But my loss was, and I don't like to include picks in there, but I'll explain why I'm going to include this in the next segment. The Patriots blow out the Jets, so that they didn't get to cover that line. But my other 2, we talked about the system. We talked about teams that weren't playing. We took the Niners. They ended up winning outright because the Rams weren't playing anybody. And we took the Cowboys in an ugly game against the Eagles. But again, the Eagles weren't playing anybody, so Cowboys end up covering that 3, and they get the win. We got a fun segment coming up here. So Prof and I've been doing the show for a while now. We've got 3 or 4 in the books. And for everybody that's watching, if you haven't reached out to us to make fun of us for our wrong calls, we're going to do it now for you. We're going to do a segment where were we wrong? Where was Swags wrong? Where was the Prof wrong?
Took me a long time to figure out where I went wrong this year.
Prof, you want to start with one for us?
It's a new beginning.
Yeah, start with one.
All right,
Give us one.
I may be off on Derek Jeter Marlins thing at this point.
So remind the folks. What
All right,
you said.
so I told everybody, and I told everybody that trading Stanton and trading Ozuna was probably a good thing for the Marlins, and to trust Derek Jeter, at least give him a chance to show his plan, to present his plan to the world and to Major League Baseball. And since then, he's come out and he wants to get rid of even more people, and it's going to be a nightmare.
So
They're going to need a lot of help to keep the lights on.
they're fire selling. I said that when we were talking about it. I
don't
knew
get
it was
it,
ramped
man.
up, but
I don't get it.
because they just have to, bro.
But you got
They
Yelich and you
have
got a
to.
good.
They got to do it. They just don't have the money, man. They just don't have the money. It's a shame. All right, let me give you one. So I messed up last week. I had said, right, when I went through, you want to select games where teams will have anything to play for. Well, my research was incorrect when I said the Patriots didn't have anything to play for last week. It turns out if the Patriots would have lost and the Steelers would have won, they actually would have got home field advantage at the playoffs. So I gave you a pick based on a false premise of, and that's why it's important, like I said, I don't want to give where did you make a wrong pick, but I made the wrong pick on the wrong premise because New England did not have the number 1 seed locked up last week. They were actually playing for it, so I screwed that one up royally.
One slap on the wrist.
Yeah, they blew out the Jets because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, and I was wrong on the Seahawks squeaking in.
Yeah, that's right.
I was a big fan of the Seahawks squeaking in, and I gave you that Matt Ryan was not fit to lead a playoff run again, even though he went to the Super Bowl last year, which was genius. I still think he's a little overrated, but
You're not wrong there, but you are wrong with them getting the playoffs. So
yeah, certainly
I got
was.
another good
and
one.
now I end up picking them today.
Yeah, and you see that? So you're repenting for your sins,
Yes,
my son.
yes.
So I got a good one. Prof's gonna like this. He had the other side. So I talked about OKC and how they were struggling. I talked about Russ Westbrook, even though I love Russ, maybe being real difficult to play with. Well, so I just got to eat some crow because the last 10 games, OKC's 8-2, and they're up to 5th in the West, and they look good. I mean, they look really good.
And I told you, give them some time. I told you, when does the season start?
You did. You weren't wrong.
Season starts Christmas.
Now
And now the Celtics are running too.
Yep. So
No, they're running back up.
well, they were sliding when we talked about
Yeah.
it. Now they're back up, but they'll go up and down. But yeah, I was really hard on Russ and OKC, and they're looking good now. The big test is obviously for them is going to be postseason, so we'll take a look at that. But yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and give myself a wrong one on that.
That's all right. Jack was wrong.
Where you were wrong.
Yeah, that's the only time I've been wrong all year. No, actually, I was wrong about Baker Mayfield last week, and we kind of opened up with this, and Mayfield's adrenaline got the best of him on Monday. He came out firing on all cylinders, and he ran out of gas early. He thought he was kind of coasting through that game. This is a mental thing. This is the mental aspect of playing quarterback that you're going to look at in the next level and say, is it all there? Because the guy obviously has the athleticism. He's got the fire for the game. He wants to play. He wants to win. But, like, it's a marathon, dude. Like, you have to play the 4 quarters, right? Not that he played bad, and not that I would put that game on him, but to come out firing the way he did, you got to keep that going. I mean, that was just I thought he was going to carry them all the way through the game. I was a little wrong there, but
It's all right. He still played very well.
he played well.
And I think honestly, to give you some credit there, I think you're almost reaching a wrong because I'll be honest, Baker Mayfield tore it up, and that overtime, that possession where they end up losing in overtime, their play calling was atrocious. They run the ball second and third down. Why do you not let him try and throw for a first down?
It's not like they weren't there.
What are you doing?
It wasn't like they didn't have a chance to win that game.
Yeah, I mean he throws up 48 on Georgia.
But I think what I was looking at more was like the cockiness in the first quarter.
Humble yourself.
Yeah, like when you looked at him flying around doing his arm thing.
Humble
like,
yourself.
Maybe humble yourself a little bit, man.
I think that you could have a point about that's what that guy was talking about. But if I play on Georgia's defense, I'm in no position to tell Baker to humble himself after he dropped 48 on me.
Yeah, but if it has tendency to do more harm than good when you're him. Like if that fires up another team, if you're playing the right team, and you need to know when to do that, when to get your team fired up,
I agree.
and when to rein it back a little bit and humble yourself.
Humble yourself. Well, that's it, guys. Nikki, you got anything else for us?
Nah, man.
That's it. I think another great show for us here today from the Hill. Remember, we're going to get this out for you before the picks, because don't miss our pick segment. You're going to want to bet on these playoff games based on what Swags gives you.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do before these games start, but we're going to get it done.
As always, thanks everybody who tunes in, who clicks that link. Please give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, text the show, let us know what you want to hear. Don't forget, we want to hear your next 4 in because we want to argue about it and we want to debate about it. Everybody's got a different next 4 in, and the king grants you the powers that he grants everybody else. Get the next 4 in. Let us know what you think.
That's right.
That's
Bring
it.
on. All
From
right.
the Hill. Gone. Swags out.
Thanks, guys. See you.